June 1st, hurricane season is officially here. Just months after two hurricanes left a wave of devastation across the state of Florida. From the west coast
to our inland locations and the east,
storms crisscrossing the state just 1 month apart left behind billions of dollars in damage.
Now, less than 1 year later, as we rebuild, the time to prepare for the next storm is now. Tonight, the lessons learned and important steps your family can take right now to stay safe.
From 10 Tampa Bay's hurricane headquarters, this is Storm Ready, keeping you informed, prepared, and connected. Just 9 months ago, Hurricane Ian changed the lives of millions of Floridians. From the Tampa Bay area to right here in Fort Myers, homes and buildings were leveled. Entire cities were underwater, boats thrown on the land, and people's lives just turned upside down. Now, as these communities rebuild and we begin a new hurricane season here along the Gulf Coast, Ian serves as an important reminder that we must all prepare now to keep our families safe from the storms Mother Nature can bring to our doorsteps. Tonight, we take a look back at their impact and the potential for another disaster.
What we have here is really historic storm surge and flooding potential.
A historic storm it was, making landfall near Category 5 strength on September 28, 2022. The devastation stretched hundreds of miles.
Sanibel is destruction.
From Fort Myers to Northport, homes flattened, communities flooded, and bridges decimated.
And it washed away roads, it washed away structures that were not new and could withstand that.
The extent of the damage first seen with the Sunrise, ranked by NOAA as the nation's third costliest hurricane and the costliest hurricane in Florida's history at more than $112 billion.
50% of the roofs in our neighborhood seem like they're messed up to some degree.
I just feel bad for the people that didn't evacuate because I don't think they were counting on it being as bad as it is. It's bad.
Hundreds missing and in need of rescue.
Either swim or drown.
Hurricane Ian is now imprinted on survivors as a storm they will never forget.
Brought tears to my eyes.
In a matter of hours, Hurricane Ian took the lives of 149 people from Hillsborough to Lee County. But as communities began rebuilding, another storm threatened more devastation, Hurricane Nicole. Making landfall on the East Coast just more than a month later near Vero Beach. Land already impacted by Ian now hit again, sending homes into the ocean. Our inland communities like Pasco County hit by wind, but mostly spared. The impact of last hurricane season now serving as a sobering reminder.
Amazing what Mother Nature can do.
Now let's not forget, Hurricane Ian was headed straight towards the Tampa Bay area. It would have been a direct hit, but just 48 hours before landfall, the forecast track changed. Let me show you that forecast. What happened was initially, as it was coming across Cuba, we thought it might be coming up north of the Tampa Bay area, up towards Cedar Key. But eventually, as it tracked north, it went a little further east, and it looked like Tampa Bay was going to get a direct hit for some time too. However, as it crossed into the Gulf of Mexico, the track of the storm shifted further to the east, thus the Hurricane Center's forecast track shifted it right towards the Fort Myers area. We dodged the bullet in Tampa. Now look, it's easy to say that it could have been us, but just what exactly does that look like?
Let me put that into perspective in the Tampa Bay area. Hurricane Ian brought catastrophic storm surge to the southwest Florida coastline, between 10 to 15 feet above ground. Here in Tampa, a storm surge like that could put parts of MacDill Air Force Base and the downtown area underwater. The ground level of the convention center behind me would definitely see water at a storm surge of 12 feet. But all levels of storm surge can be dangerous. 1 to 3 feet of water would be enough to knock you off your feet and stall your car. And anything above that, your car can literally float away. A surge of 5 to 7 feet, that would send water into homes and businesses. And when that jumps up 7 to 12 feet, that's enough to fill the first floor of a building. 12 to 15 feet puts homes underwater. And when you get a storm surge of 20 feet or more, that can overwhelm entire cities. But it's not just water you have to worry about. Even if you don't meet the eye of a hurricane, tropical storm force winds are nothing to mess around with. Let's take a look at the impact. You can expect sustained winds of 39 to 73 miles per hour with gusts reaching over 100 miles per hour with a tropical storm. You're going to want to be careful of any flying debris or down power lines. But at 74 miles per hour, we're officially dealing with a Category 1 hurricane. At this point, even well-constructed homes could see damage to the roof and vinyl siding, and extensive tree damage could be a risk to both you and your property. The power grid could even see some major disruptions. At 96 miles per hour, well, we got a Category 2 hurricane. Falling trees and flying debris, they become the deadliest threats to you and your home. And if a window or door gets blown out of an older home, those winds can actually rush right inside and blow that roof right off. Okay, at 111 miles per hour, we now have a major Category 3 hurricane. At this point, mobile homes just don't stand a chance. And even older homes, they could collapse. At this point, even newer construction is now at risk. All right, if you can still hear me, 130 miles per hour. It's a Category 4 hurricane. And in these storms, those blown open doors and smashed windows could actually lead to newer homes failing. Power poles will be uprooted, they could be snapped or even downed. Oh, and if that storm reaches 150 mile per hour sustained winds, we officially have a Category 5 hurricane. Catastrophic damage is guaranteed with total destruction in some places. The area will likely be uninhabitable for months. While the latest report from NOAA upgraded Hurricane Ian to a Category 5 storm while in the southeastern Gulf of Mexico, it made landfall in southwest Florida as a Category 4 hurricane.
Devastation can extend hundreds of miles, which means you don't need to be on the coast to feel the impact. Here in Northport, about 20 miles inland, communities saw devastating wind and flooding. This road behind me, Price Boulevard, was broken into pieces by the water.
And 64 miles from the coast in Wauchula, the winds of Hurricane Ian ruined citrus crops.
To see half or more of your fruit gone, then that's not going to leave much, if any, profit this year. Probably a lot will go in the hole.
A storm-caused fire tore through an apartment complex.
People really don't have nowhere to go after this.
Everybody's scrambling to find somewhere to live.
And water from the rising Peace River flooded homes days after Ian had passed.
And then you can see that the line in here was up to there at one point.
With our changing climate, inland communities are being hit harder than they've ever been by these storms.
It's true. You don't have to live along the coast to feel life-changing impacts from a hurricane. And it all boils down to the science. Here's why. So hurricanes now, they move on shore a certain strength, right? The highest winds along the coast, those winds decrease as the storm moves on shore. Now, take into effect climate change, warmer waters, warmer atmosphere. You can make bigger and stronger storms, higher winds in those storms. So now, as the storm makes landfall, yes, you get higher winds along the coast, but you also get higher winds inland. Those higher winds can do more damage, and even those storms nowadays can hold more water. Flooding also becomes an issue with heavy rainfall.
Whether you're inland or on the coast, one thing to always remember: run from the water, hide from the wind. But for many Floridians, past memories may have created a false sense of security.
Nearly 7 million people evacuated ahead of Hurricane Irma's arrival in 2017. The storm made its first landfall in the state as a Category 4 hurricane in the Florida Keys, and its second on Marco Island as a Category 3 storm. Irma packed a punch, but the wind and storm surge was not as fierce as expected, leading some people to rethink their evacuation.
So we spoke to Dr. Jennifer Collins, a professor at USF who examines hurricane evacuations and human behavior. She gave us insight into why leaning on the past can have deadly consequences.
I think past storms plays a huge role in how people might plan their next evacuation.
It's a heavy decision Floridians face with a storm on the way, but Collins says over time, it's one that may change.
Those who have escaped hurricanes again and again, they come up with this belief that they're sort of immune to it. Those who have been impacted, I'm sure they wouldn't take a second to evacuate now.
A false sense of security many people in the Tampa Bay area may be comfortable with after more than a century without a direct hit.
Many people have this myth that Tampa Bay is protected. That's not true. We're not protected.
An attitude that could have deadly consequences.
It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. Next time it happens, we're going to have a much bigger impact than we had in 1921 because we have a greater population, we have much more infrastructure.
And the misconceptions don't end at the track of a storm. They're also present in the strength. It doesn't take a Category 5 hurricane to bring dangerous conditions to your neighborhood.
You could have a tropical storm or even a Cat 1 hurricane that can cause terrific flooding. It's very dangerous for people to make their evacuation decisions just off the category of a storm.
While the luck will eventually run out for the Tampa Bay area, Collins hopes people will use the extra time to prepare as an advantage.
I think it gives us a good experience to start preparing, to figure out what we do have, what we don't have, what we're missing, so that we can be prepared for the next storm.
While Mother Nature can bring devastation, there are things you can do right now to prepare your family and your home for those potential storms.
In just 2 minutes, the importance of knowing your zone and how you can find yours in a matter of seconds.
Plus, insurance. We hope to never have to use it, but spending the money now could save your wallet later. The coverage you should have now to ensure you're covered in a storm.
And later, the forecast for this hurricane season and the science behind those predictions.
We explain the impact and science behind hurricanes and also the psychology behind evacuations and why some people choose not to go. But making the decision to leave can be as easy as knowing your evacuation zone. We've made them really accessible too. We have an entire page dedicated to the evacuation zones on 10tampabay.com and our 10 Tampa Bay app. You can download it by scanning the QR code on your screen. But take a look. Each county has a list of zones ranked from A to E, A being the most at risk. And one street could separate you from your neighbor's evacuation zone. Right now, I'm standing in Zone D, but a neighborhood just a few blocks away is Zone C. Regardless, it's important to know where your home lies for the safety of your family. If a storm is headed our way, you won't need to dig for your zone when leaders declare mandatory evacuations. You can just go.
While you're away, you'll want to have peace of mind that your home is protected. Many Floridians living along the coast have flood insurance, and for some, it's even mandatory. But many homeowners are overlooking the need. Only 41% of Florida homes in hazard zones have flood insurance. So we spoke to an expert about common misconceptions and the importance of a policy that protects you.
Outside turned into pretty much a river.
The wind, the rain, it was just coming, and from any and every which side.
We're coming home to nothing, you know, but it's a Florida way, you know, either cry about it or get at it and start over.
All it takes is one. In an instant, a storm can reduce your home to ruin. And in Florida, it's a story far too common.
In Florida, you either live near a flood zone or you live in a flood zone.
But experts say many Floridians are overlooking a crucial piece of protection: flood insurance.
You don't necessarily need to look at a flood map if you live in Florida. Just look at your address, and if it says Florida on it, you need flood insurance.
FEMA spokesperson John Mills has seen the devastation firsthand, from Fort Myers to Fort Lauderdale, and says the Tampa Bay area is especially at risk.
The Gulf of Mexico has some of the warmest water in the world, and that is rocket fuel for hurricanes.
But you don't need to be right on the water to feel the impact.
Regardless of where you live, you're very likely to have flooding in that area when you get a really intense rain event, even if it's not a hurricane.
Despite that reality, only 18% of homes in Florida have flood insurance, according to the Insurance Information Institute. One of the most common misconceptions: homeowners insurance will cover the damage. But that idea could soon be put to bed. Hundreds of thousands of homeowners who have state-regulated citizens insurance will be required to also have a flood insurance policy by 2027, a critical mandate as the devastation in Florida grows year over year.
In the last 7 hurricane seasons, Florida has received 8 major disaster declarations for hurricanes. That is reality.
Another misconception: FEMA will fill in the gaps.
FEMA is not insurance. FEMA is not a replacement for insurance.
Mills says while FEMA will be there to help, it should be your last resort and won't cover everything.
FEMA can help with money for basic home repairs, temporary rental assistance for people who need to relocate, and other needs such as replacing personal property. FEMA programs are only designed to help jumpstart your recovery, not rebuild everything.
Experts say now is the time to act, advising people to talk to their insurance provider and shop around to get the best price in a market where rates are going up. Mills says it's also important to make sure information about your home is correct.
I would also suggest getting an elevation certificate to identify what the exact elevation is of your home to make sure all the data that your insurance provider has is correct.
The last piece of advice, likely the most important.
There's a climate reality. The reality means you need to be prepared as best as you can.
Protecting your home is so important as hurricane season is underway, but now is also the time to have your plan in place and a hurricane kit ready. In just 2 minutes, what you should include in your plan and the must-have items in your kit.
Plus the forecast for the hurricane season. How many storms can we expect, and how does that compare to a typical season?
And later, how science plays a role in that prediction.
One of the most important parts of your hurricane kit is going to be food and water. Probably not going to have power after the storm, so things in the refrigerator here that have to be cooked right away on a grill because you're not going to have that electric stovetop, or you want your non-perishable foods. Canned foods, don't forget your can opener, you're going to need that. Healthy snacks are great. Granola bars as well, peanut butter, high in protein. You're going to want to clean up. Paper towels would be a good thing to have. Now let's talk water. 1 gallon per person per day for a week. That means I've got a family of 5, 7 days worth of water is 35 gallons of water. I don't need to go out to the store and buy all that. If I have containers at home before the storm, I can use my faucet to do it. And guys, don't forget about your pets. You're gonna bring their food along too.
You'll want to make sure you keep several items handy throughout the storm. Think flashlight, batteries, a NOAA weather radio, and don't forget that portable phone charger to help you stay connected throughout the storm. You'll also want to remember those basic hygiene items. We have wipes, hand sanitizer, an extra set of clothes, and extra socks to help keep your feet dry throughout the storm. One thing that you can't pack in your hurricane kit is gasoline. You'll want to make sure you keep your car at a full tank of gas before the storm and make sure you have extra gas on hand in the event you're planning on using a generator.
Finally, for some of the most important items in your kit, think documents. You're going to want to have proof of insurance, medical records, deeds, even your birth certificates. All of these items need to go in a dry bag, preferably a waterproof bag that can zip closed to keep it dry during the storm. Also think plenty of cash on hand to get you through the event. First aid kit as well. You want plenty of supplies in that. Medication, this is a big one. At least 7 days, but try to aim for a month worth of medication. That's not only for yourself, but also think about your pets too.
In just 2 minutes, we'll head back to the 10 Tampa Bay studios and we'll take a look at the forecast for the upcoming hurricane season. How many storms can we expect? And the science behind those predictions. So we've shown you the impacts that hurricanes can have, and we've helped you get prepared for the storm. So now, what does the season look like coming up for 2023? Now, I'm going to show you the Colorado State forecast for this upcoming hurricane season. They do a really good job. They're generally pretty accurate. Just remember, it's a forecast, so we kind of want a ballpark number. What I'm showing you are the named storms that are expected to form, and they think we're going to get about 13. The average, going back from 1991 through 2020, is 14 named storms. That means it becomes a tropical storm or even stronger. Of those 14 named storms, 7 become hurricanes. Of those 7 hurricanes, 3 of those become major hurricanes, which is a Cat 3 or higher. Colorado State thinks we'll be at or slightly below average for this season. It's pretty close to where we should be. 13 named storms, 6 of those hurricanes, and 2 being major hurricanes. We had 2 major hurricanes in 2022. Now, there are a couple of reasons that go into this forecast. For those, let me head over to meteorologist Natalie Ferrari.
That's right, Bobby. And one of the big factors that we watch when it comes to forecasting a potential outlook for the hurricane season, water temperature. We focus along the Atlantic basin, which incorporates the Caribbean and the Gulf of Mexico as well. We look at those water temperatures just to see just how far above or below they are from normal. And while the anomalies do trend a little bit above normal, especially as we kick our way through hurricane season, there's other factors we're going to have to watch out for very closely when it comes to El Nino versus La Nina. And for that, we send it over to Tyler Moore.
Yeah, Natalie, you're exactly right. We have some positive signs when it comes to La Nina versus El Nino. This is a pattern that we look for in the Pacific. So off the coast of South America, in a La Nina pattern, we have cooler than normal water temperatures. That's what we've seen the last couple of seasons. Now we're starting to switch to El Nino. That is warmer than normal temperatures off the coast of South America, and that is some positive news. In El Nino, this is the big thing. It impacts us because there is increased wind shear in the Gulf of Mexico. And one thing that we're going to look for when it comes to this is the stronger that El Nino can get, the more wind shear and the less storms we could potentially see, and it can limit the strength of them as well. That is something we'll be watching for as we dive deeper into hurricane season.
Regardless of these predictions, it's important to remember that nothing is set in stone when you're dealing with Mother Nature, and it only takes one storm. That's why we say it's so important to prepare now. Those plans could save your life.
And as your hurricane headquarters, we're here to help keep you safe. Our 10 Tampa Bay app will send you important weather alerts all season long. You can download that by scanning our QR code on the right side of your screen.
And our efforts to keep you prepared don't stop here. We have tons of hurricane hacks to protect your home, your pets, and your family on 10tampabay.com right now. Just click the Hurricane Headquarters tab. There you'll also find links to your evacuation zones, common myths about the season, and a live radar tracking weather in the tropics.
Thank you for joining us for this special storm-ready edition of 10 Tampa Bay. Again, make sure to watch us, your hurricane headquarters, on 10 Tampa Bay throughout the season to stay informed, prepared, and connected.